Hey everyone, it's Luke Cook here, and I'm on an absolute mission to find incredible individuals who are turning their moments into positive movements of social change. In this series that you're about to watch, called Moments to Movements, we catch up with 4 incredible Aussies who are doing just that. So sit back, relax, and learn about their stories. Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time. Ren, you're an architect and an artist.
Yes.
And now the co-founder of an incredible charity, ReLove. So I can't wait to delve into our story today. ReLove provides high quality, repurposed furniture to women and children leaving crisis refuges, but not just women and children, anyone in need. But there is a high proportion there. Since 2019, I think we started our journeys very similar, Ren, in our purpose-driven life. And you support services in Sydney for families in crisis, hopefully one day across the whole country. And ReLove fosters community involvement through donations and volunteering. So, Ren, I've fallen in love with your purpose and story. I've already just said that in the impact that you made, but I want to focus back before the ReLove movement, right? And I like to call it a movement because it definitely is. Who was Ren before this journey, before the journey of purpose, before the journey of giving back to society?
I can't quite track how ReLove has come to be in my life, but you know, you're supposed to fall where you fall sometimes, and accidents happen, and that's where we're at. But yes, I was an architect. I wasn't practicing at that time outside of doing our own developments for our own family. I was practicing as an artist, an installation artist. A lot of architects and like being artists, and artists like being architects. And I was primarily at home with kids as well, and doing the parenting thing, which felt really, it was very intentional for me at the time, being at home with the kids. They're getting grown up now, so timing was good for me to have a little bit more time up my sleeve to start doing what we're doing. But yeah, I just want to say this is also Ben, my co-founder, who's here.
Round of applause, co-founders.
Yeah, and I think at the time, I also was spending quite a lot of my personal time being fit, not so fit anymore, running and doing triathlon. And along the way, I met Ben, who is a running coach, and yeah, we ended up forming a social good running club, which has somehow led to ReLove. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Because, you know, you just don't know where your journeys are going to go. Like I said, you're an architect, an artist, and then all of a sudden you've now ventured into a journey of purpose and drive. Did you ever think about your legacy before starting ReLove? Did you ever think what you wanted to leave into the world?
Yeah, look, I think, I don't know that it was a conscious thought about legacy, but I think that, you know, actually having your own children is a really good learning tool. In many ways. They teach you a lot. And I do think, you know, that having children, and my husband and I have lots of conversations around, you know, how we want them to be and how we expect them to behave as people contributing to society, and I think that drives both of us really to think about what sort of world we want to make for our kids.
I want to know the moment, Ren, where you both just went, okay, this is the idea, this is what we're going to start with. Like, what was happening in your world at that time?
Oh, there's so many things happening in our world at the time. I think it's a collision of events that happened. It's a little bit like a spider web, it's a bit difficult to unpack, but really, you know, when we started the Run for Good project, and we really have only been called ReLove technically for 2 and a bit years, is that right? And, you know, the Run for Good project was a social good running club that involved a community of people who wanted to come on board. It was free, everything we do is free. It was free, and all we were asking people was to come together as a community. It's got all the same elements. Come together as a community, get involved with practical ways of giving back around different purpose areas, practical ways of giving back. And all you had to do was either get on board with donating, volunteering your time, or spreading the word, right?
Pretty
kind
simple.
of the same elements of what we're doing now, right? And along that journey, very early on, COVID happened, our very first project was with Wayside Chapel, and it was a really practical ways. We go, I think we've donated over 600 pairs of running shoes. Please don't give me running shoes. We don't take running shoes anymore. Running shoes, which was a really obvious thing. People on average walk 28 kilometres a week looking for a safe place to sleep, food, shelter. And, if you don't have a good pair of shoes. So practical ways of giving back. And we also bought Opal cards, simple things. COVID happened. So cast your mind back, you can only leave, if you're all from Sydney, you can only leave the house with one other person at the time. Okay, so that's not very good for a running group, is it? Right? And in fact, we used to run from the North Shore to thing, and we'd try to meet in the middle and then
disperse out again.
Because you could only go 5 kilometres, right? So what was happening in the world at that time was absolutely significant world event. But in our local area, I live in the eastern suburb, Ben lives in the North Shore. I call that high quality loot days of people COVID spring cleaning, right? Because we were all at home, we're just contemplating our navels, looking at old stuff. And it was a really big time for online shopping, consumerism, right? So it really brought these things to a head. And, I'm, trained as an architect. Sustainability wasn't really even a word back then, but at my university, that's what we were trained in. And going out and seeing all this stuff going on the sidewalk, really good quality stuff. And at the time, we'd been running a project around Mother's Day. Ben and I had visited one of their women's refuges. Yeah. I don't know if any of you have been to a women's refuge. I hope that, you or your friends don't need to go there. But, this particular refuge is a secret location. It's one of the larger women's refuges, and it's for women and their children specifically. Lots of different refuges do different things, but this one is. And we were quite profoundly affected. We were there delivering flowers on Mother's Day to every woman, not just mothers, who were living in the refuge and transitional housing. That was our project. And we walked away feeling quite profoundly affected because you see it. The last thing you want to be doing is living in trauma with other people who are living in trauma, and it's a stopgap motion. You really want to be in that moment quickly, and you want to start again. So we drove away, spoke to we became quite good friends with the CEO of the Women Girls Emergency Centre here in Redfern. And one of the over the cup of tea conversations was, why is the women's refuge full? Like, where are people going, and what are all the problems here? And one of the big problems was that people could get into housing, because we all think housing is a problem. We know housing is a problem, but it's not as big a problem as you actually think it is, right? It's only that we're talking about that. And, while you can get into housing, what she said is people are going into housing and there's nowhere to furnish a home. And we went, well, people are throwing stuff out. Let's help 5 women. So that was it. We're going to help 5 women. And we called that project the Heart and Home Project. And we called on our friends and families, and we borrowed a little bit of warehouse space from my husband's company, who runs a construction business. Warehouse was currently a little bit empty because they weren't doing a lot of stuff right then because of COVID. I know COVID brought good things too. And we said, we're just going to be here 2 to 4 weeks, and we'll just borrow your space. And it just, it started something that hasn't stopped. And, we've learned a lot along the way. But really, we wanted to help 5 women. And within the first few months, we moved 50 families. So then...
Talk about that first story, that first time where you were able to put furniture into someone's home. What were you feeling at that time?
Yeah, look, I think the very first 5 women was a very different system to what we do now.
Sure.
So that was, we were providing the furniture in a little warehouse, and the caseworker was coming and saying, I need all these things. And then they were sending a removalist. Yep. The removal guys were taking it and going off. So there was a bit of a disconnection with And then we started to work out pretty quickly that system didn't work very well, because you can't ask these removalist guys to care as much as we do. Yep. We cared. Right, and so we started hiring our own van and doing it ourselves, and going out, we hire those pop cars, little go-get vans, and we would go ourselves, I think we had a lot of visits to the chiropractor, and we used to call each other at the end of the day, 7:30. What time did you fall asleep on the sofa? Yeah, I'll sleep by 7:30. Because we were literally physically moving furniture, and then after a while, Ben actually got a mate of his along to help because I probably wasn't as much help as he needed, and I used to call them two old men in a truck. Right? So that was really
that
us.
name was taken, no problem.
Two old men in a truck.
Yeah.
But so I guess I speak for both of us. Walking into an empty home, seeing a mum sleeping on the floor on her clothes. And at the best, a blow-up mattress, and we've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times. You can't walk away from that without being profoundly affected and realising that we had the capacity to do something about it, right, by mobilising our community. It's not rocket science what we do. It's a very old idea. Connect excess to need. It's just that we don't believe in someone's trash is someone's treasure. That's just trash. So let's make this a bit more of a dignified experience. So that I think for us was a real moment where we went, wow, this is, I think if we all could see it, we can't see it. If you knew your neighbour was sleeping on the floor with her children, you would be mobilising your community, outraging, going out, finding furniture, raising money. If you knew, the problem is people don't know. And we now know, and that's our responsibility on how we bear that and how we share that information with people so we can all get involved as a movement.
There would have been a moment where you just went, okay, we need to go all in here. How was that moment where you both decided to go, yep, this is it, we're going to leave behind what we know and trust and we're going on this for-purpose journey? Like, where was that inkling and that day where you said, we're all in?
I reckon it took us, in fact, I loved creating these different ideas for projects, and we were still doing all these other projects. It wasn't like we were just straight away.
You didn't just stop everything.
We were doing a curry for kindness and working with people like Parliament King, and I'm originally Sri Lankan, and my family owned the first Sri Lankan restaurant in this country. I'm first generation. I wanted to do curry for kindness, and we were creating curries and raising money, and we were working with all these other not-for-profits to raise awareness around their missions. Wayside Chapel, the Women and Girls Emergency Centre, the Asylum Seeker Centre. So we were doing all those things, and I kept saying to them, we're not going to be the furniture people. We are the furniture people now. Now we're like, yeah, we better just stay on our lane because we're doing that really well. And so, no more curries, no more flowers, So all the other projects have now fallen by the wayside. But I think it was a learning along the way. We kept asking questions. We couldn't believe it. We could not believe that this is happening in Sydney, on our doorstep. In Australia, how are we letting people sleep on the floor? How are we not knowing that this is a problem and the scale of the problem is what we've learned and what we've over time have understood? And I think a real moment for me very early on, I reckon it was about sort of the second 6 months. Well, we were still doing all the other projects, so it was sort of about a year-ish in of running. We were still running, doing all these other things, and there was a Facebook ad that had gone out, and he had done this post, and someone had found out about us through this because we were saying, oh yeah, we'll take that furniture, Anyway, beautiful Mel Schwartz, she's an amazing woman who was working at Weave, and she came along and said, she stood in our little warehouse. It was a bit more than a shed, and she started crying. And this is the first time we'd met Weave also, Red Fern organisation, and she was crying. And she said, do you mind if I FaceTime the CEO? Because I can't tell you what this means. And she was walking around FaceTiming Siobhan from Wave, going, look at these people. And we kept saying, but why is it needed? Like, didn't you think that, there's other big organisations that are taking your stuff and it's giving it directly to people?
You mentioned statistics and the interesting information that you've managed to uncover or just understand a little bit more. I want you to share that with us so we can just understand the magnitude that we're working with right now. Because I think with any movement to occur, we need to understand where we're at. And we, it's never be perfect, because we can never be perfect, but it's about progress and how we move
Yeah.
forward. So what are some of those?
In the last 12 months, we've helped 780 families, and out of those families, 75% are women. Obviously, we don't discriminate on who we help. That's really important for you to know. We don't discriminate on who we help. That also makes us very difficult to fund, mind you, but we're going to stick to it because everybody needs help. Over 40% of our people that we support are First Nations. That tells you that we've got a real problem.
Wow.
And really, really significantly, what we've really just understood that in the last 12 months, and over 1,200 of those people were children under the age of 16, so not even, and of course we've got a huge amount of youth at risk. And the terrifying statistic of that, and I hate the word statistic because these are people, is that out of those 1,200, a third of them are under 4 years old. So doesn't that tell you, if we're going to break cycles of poverty and violence, you know, we have to create safe homes for the next generation to grow up in. Yeah, under 4. That really has shaken us a little bit.
We all understand what generational trauma can do. I know it with my own family with many different aspects. And so to be able to sort of fix these opportunities for kids to be able to grow up in not only houses but homes where they feel that their surroundings is safe and the environment around them is safe is something that we all need to lean in on. I'd love to understand maybe a story of hope of someone that has been through ReLove, and I'd love to understand, just one of those stories.
There's hundreds.
I know.
I knew you were going to ask that question.
Well,
but quite funnily, I was actually having a chat this morning with one of our beautiful volunteers who brought in dumplings for Ben, because Ben has been away for a week on the Larapinta Trail and he missed her dumplings last week. And I know that she'll be comfortable with me sharing this story, but 2 years ago she was one of our clients.
Right.
And I thought that this was appropriate to tell you because I know you're actually going to be talking to Too Good as well. Anyway, Jing came through very early when we first moved to our current warehouse, and we you know, this whole moment of us deciding that we're going to be a free store where people can come and shop for free and they get to choose, and that's going to be choice and empowerment, and people can choose how their own home looks, and that's a really beautiful part of our model. On this particular day, when we supported Jing, actually we were really short on volunteers. So Ben was on the truck again, old man. And he was going out with one of our other people in the truck, and all we had was a list that had come through one caseworker. In her particular case, she wasn't coming through to do her pick. And when Ben arrived, she was moving into the Redfern apartments, and Ben arrived and found that indeed, very typically that we see, she was sleeping on a bed of her clothes, and we were delivering her a fridge, a bed, maybe a sofa. It wasn't much.
Okay.
And Ben, she had a 2-bedroom place, and Ben said, "Look, you know, come back with me and let's set up your whole home," and got her back in the car. She came back to the warehouse. Ben came up and said, "I really want you to come and meet Jing." We all stood around and we hugged and we cried, and you know, this is a couple of years ago. And she said, "Look, I would like to set up my..." It's very typical. I don't want to ask. No, that's enough. You know, like all she had to eat was the bamboo takeaway forks and spoons. We were just talking about this morning.
Wow.
You know, the takeaway cutlery that you get at the shop. That's all she had. And she thought that was enough, right? So it's a very typical story. People don't want to ask. They think that, you know, in her, she had been working. She had a full-time job. She was working in the corporate world when her situation happened. And there's a lot of shame in asking. So she didn't want to ask. So when the caseworker said, "I'm going to put you in place," she didn't ask, right? So Ben brought her back, and we set her up with everything. And she said, "Look, the only thing is on my second bedroom, can we make that stuff really nice? Like, is that okay? The second bedroom I wanted," and she was separated from her child. She didn't know when her child would be reunited with her, but what she wanted to do was to make the second bedroom a safe place for if any other woman was in that situation.
Wow. She
was being supported by WAJEC, that she would allow a person to come and stay, and she has done that multiple times. in that particular room so that she could provide a safe haven for somebody else. So we made that very, very nice, near new, beautiful stuff. And we continued on our relationship with her over time. She has become an unofficial ReLove ambassador. She went on to the training program at Too Good, you know, so you get somebody up, you get them into a safe home, then these programs can work. They don't work unless you actually have a home, and we know that. We've come across it more times than we can count. She's gone through that program, she's on her feet. She doesn't want to work in a kitchen, that's what she's decided is not her pathway. But luckily for us, she makes a very mean dumpling. And I had put a call out on social media not that long ago saying, our warehouse is literally overflowing and I need some help just this week. Can everybody come down and help? And I got a text from her, Ren, I'm coming. And now she comes regularly. She's coming around 2 days a week. She's well, she's back on her feet. She's overcome a lot of her health challenges. Life is looking good. And yeah, she's back because she wants to help other people. And that's a perfect example of somebody that comes to be with ReLove.
I love that for multiple reasons, obviously, but just to allow her to have a sense of purpose again and drive to be there and to be able to support you back in those moments must be pretty special to see.
Yeah, and also, you know, I've seen her supporting a young 19-year-old girl who was going into the Redfern apartments and walking alongside her to do her pick, and then saying to her, I just live around the corner.
Talking about community, and you know, the whole theme of this is how do we turn moments into movements, right? And you are doing that already. But I sit and look at community, and I see a lot of people are aware of situations, or maybe they're aware, and many people here probably care about situations. But where movements occurs is where people start showing where they're driving the change. The actions that they're taking, being able to be volunteering or looking at their own language when they're talking about a certain topic area or encouraging other people to come on the journey. But it's that where bit that I think people struggle with. In your mind, how do movements start and what may be holding people back from getting involved?
I had never thought about that, and you know, like we definitely are a movement. Like we're just holding on tight. It's amazing, and I think maybe last week we were having a chat, and you asked what are you proudest of? It was one of those questions, and of course we're very, very proud of what we're doing. You know, in the social, you know, change space. Obviously, environmental impact is huge. One of the things we're really the proudest of is our community, because what happens. And it goes back to this initial conversation about, you know, us thinking, we've got to find ways that people can get involved, for our children to get involved, is I think we're very, very proud of the way people can get involved in so many different levels, right? And it is a very equalising place, ReLove. You know, no one needs to know where you're from. I've shared that story with Jing, but you know, Jing, it's up to her if she shares the story with people, you know, when she's volunteering. We have other clients that are our volunteers. We never talk about where you're from, what you do, who you, like it's very equalising, and it's about human connection there. What happens under the roof of ReLove is all about love and human connection, and the beautiful thing that we see and why it's becoming a movement really is because there's so many different ways that you can activate and get involved. You know, you might be somebody who really wants to turn up and walk alongside clients. You know, we've got people, they call themselves the Wednesday girls, who just love to come and style, right? And we've got people who, you know, I mean, actually Craig, our mutual connection, he decided in his life that actually he's working 4 days a week because his fifth day is he's on the trucks, he's delivering. I mean, he comes from the corporate world.
Yeah, he does.
He loves it. We've got a lot of those people who are ex-bankers, finance people, who are literally driving furniture and moving, you know, furniture into people's homes, making beds, putting cutlery and crockery. So there's all these layers. You know, corporates can get involved. There's a lot of, you know, circularity is a big thing that people are talking about at the moment. Yep, circular economy, we get it. Environmental social governance, we get it. We're circular economy in action. We're people first. Right, and this all happens under the roof, and the power of community when you see people turning up. We can't believe that people turn up over and over and over again as volunteers to make this happen.
But I want to know, Ren, what's your dreams? Like, where do you want the future of ReLove to be? Like, if I'm sitting here with you in 5 years' time, what conversation are we going to be having?
We want to help thousands and thousands of families. We want to help anybody who needs this, and we want to be around the country. That is, you know, what we see ourselves in 5 years. We want this to be long-term, sustainably. We will be there doing every hour, burning the candle at both ends until we are safe, knowing that this will always exist, because it is so critical to breaking cycles of poverty for people. So 5 years' time, I think we should be national.
That is it, everyone. Can everyone give a round of applause for Ren?